Hello, hello, hello. And we are back with another one. Like DJ Khaled. No, cool. Yesterday was a bit of a weird one. I could not show my camera because I was streaming from the car whilst my daughter was training. So at least we're back at home. Um, and it is fairly late and I have got church tomorrow. So this will be a quick one. But alas, by God's grace, we have built the role playing game, which was quite nice, and which I have plans of grabbing, making some tweaks, changing it up a little bit, and then putting on my GitHub, as a project I've done. Um, but yeah, so we're moving on to project two, which was learning form validation by building a calorie counter. So let's move on. We finished step 8, which was around the HTML, and it's quite useful that we're sort of designing this aspect of things as well. Get to do a bit more with HTML. Um, but let's move on to step 9. I can collapse this actually. So in the span, we are to create a label element for an entry drop down. Give it the text as food. I'm just scrolling up because so I was able to, cool, create a label for that, and then, cool, and then within that, create an input. Okay, so we have to create a label for an entry drop down and give it the text. And through that, I then create a select element with ID set to entry drop down and a name set to options. And below that, add a button. Wow, okay, that's going to do a lot of things. So let's get started. So let's start with the label. Let's open that up. So we know we're doing the label for I'm going to start copying and pasting. Entry drop down. And it has the text. Add food exercise. Now I don't know if it's because I'm tired or because it's late, but I actually don't remember how we did it. That's why I'm going back up to see how I did it before. Because if I've done it once, why not, use that? So that's my label, and then within that, I need to create a select element. Now again, I'm sort of going off of, maybe informed guesses. What's the select element? ID is equal to entry drop down. So I'm not entirely sure this is actually how you do it, but what's I think important to me is that because of the consistency of the language, I can make these sort of educated guesses, as it were. But we also, will use the documentation to advise ourselves. So we've got button ID is equal to and entry add entry. Type button. Okay, so I'm not sure of is the select, so I'm gonna go check that out with alright, so select name ID is as I thought. And you can stick it in there, and I'll have some options. What they has name was options. So this should pass. Yeah. Now your select menu needs options for each of the food and exercise field set elements you created in the previous steps. Use the option elements to create a new option for each field set. The value attribute of each option should be the ID of the field set, and the text of each option should be the text of the legend. Set the breakfast option as the selected option. So I'm going to go back to here. Now I'm going to say, so we got your options, values, okay. So I'm also looking at this to, so especially look for that selected option. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. There's one that's got selected there, which is the, what I'm guessing, you know, the option which is selected by default. Selected. So that's what I was looking for. Now, I probably am not searching for things well because I had to scroll through the entire thing, but this is brand new to me. So I almost see value in being able to go through it as such. Hi, Emin. I'm good, and I am learning. So I'm doing the FreeCodeCamp. Shout out to Emin, jumping on the YouTube comments. Yeah, I'm doing a FreeCodeCamp course. I'm in the second project, which is a calorie counter, and I'm sort of I'm figuring it out as I go. I'm not as versed in HTML or JavaScript for that matter. Despite having done a course in it before and using it a little bit. So this is me sort of trying to figure it out as I go. But thanks for joining. Cool. So yeah, I could probably have done a more focused search, but the value that I do find in these first instances, going through the entire document, the first few bits to find what I'm looking for, or having a more sort of general search, is I'm also finding things that I might not necessarily know that I don't know of, and I might not necessarily know that I need to know, and so I don't see it as so much of a waste of time on my first go to go through the document with a more generalist sort of view to try and find what I'm looking for, because it exposes me to various elements of the various attributes or various parts of the elements that I might not then have known of before, that then can allow me or afford me more specific searches further down the line. So cool. So your select menu needs options for each of the food and exercise field set elements you created. Use the option element to create a new option for each field set. The value attribute of each option should be the ID of the field set. So these are our field sets. Okay, and we need to use those as our options. So I'm just gonna at this point go with what they're saying, right? So I know that in my select I need to have options, and so I know that this is the format that my options will take, and so I will then do my usual copy and paste once I have like a template, as it were. And I know that each option will have a value. In there. So each field set, the value should be the ID of the field set, and the text of each option should be the text of the legend. Okay. So this is where I don't necessarily know how to do it. I don't know if I'm meant to do it programmatically, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it because field set is not an array per se. It's just an element. So I don't think I'm meant to use any sort of JavaScript at this point to do it. I think I'm meant to just do it programmatically. Do it effectively manually. And I mean, if it's wrong, I'll get told afterwards. So let's. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instances of this. And I know that my first one, breakfast, will be selected. So I'm going to go ID, breakfast, and the legend is breakfast. I'm going to go ID, lunch, ID, dinner. So that's I'm just doing that because I know it's just a matter of capitalizing the first letter. So I am being a bit lazy here, just because I know that the legend and the IDs are the same thing, effectively. And I can just then come in here, switch that up. Cool. So I then have my breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, and a exercise as options within my select ID. And that looks like it should pass, which it does, which is cool. So, okay. create another div element within it. And that's the button to submit. This button should have this text. So actually, let me test something out here. Okay, I think there's like a, okay, so there's like a VS Code thing where there's a shortcut to create divs. I don't remember it, but if someone does, please let me know. Either way, I'm not using VS Code here, so I'm having to write it out manually. But there is, I know there is that. Cool. So button, and the fact that they've said this is one that will submit the form makes me think it's important. I can do that type that says submit. So I'm going to have to look for that in the documentation. But this button has an ID. And a type. Now, because the last one was type button for that same reason. And this one just needs clear. I'm going to hazard a guess and say that this one type would be submit. Now, admittedly, I don't know if that's even remotely true, except there are like patterns to this thing. So this is a guess. This is legitimately a guess. But I'm just going to go and then, figure it out. So button type to submit. Yeah, there you go. And Stack Overflow is going to become a very good friend of ours. At least from what I've heard, it's a very good friend of most developers. Yeah, okay, so this is a possible value. Type button value data. That doesn't sound right. No, so this is type, type submits form data to the server. This is the default if the attribute is not specified. Reset, button resets, button. The button has no default behavior. It can have client-side scripts associated with it. Okay. Now, because I want to clear, I'll probably want to use reset for the type here. And this actually might work. Okay. I bet we come back to this, but that's fine. So this is button. Yeah. So this was a guess. Because they said submit, I say a guess, it was obviously well informed and highly hinted guess. But it's interesting to learn that the button attribute actually prevents the button from then submitting the form, and rather sort of gives it functionality that can be accessed, that can be utilized by scripts. And to actually create a button that does submit, you can give it that type. And again, that idea of going through some of this documentation with a bit of an open mind, I learned that, okay, there's a reset. Now I'm sure, okay, this is actually from MDN, and it's nicely linked back here. But you can find that information here as well. Submit reset button, and then value. So, cool. Your form needs somewhere to display the results. Add an empty div and give it an ID output and the class values of output and hide. Okay, so now I think I can assign multiple classes just by putting in a space. I don't think I even need to put in a comma, I don't believe. Okay, I was clearly lying to myself. Output and hide, so what do I need to do? Is that what I want again? Okay, so let's see. So again, you've got your Stack Overflow, because I'm asking specifically how to assign multiple classes to an HTML container. So I could use that. There is a W3 Schools. There is a W3 Schools article as well. So I can just define them within the same brackets. They don't have to be separate. So that should suffice. Okay. And again, this ends up being a slightly easier way, and it's I guess peer reviewed, so you don't necessarily want to take it as gospel, but if someone asks a question that's exactly what you need, this is exactly what I needed. More often than not, if it's been answered, there will be useful answers in there as there was here. Some of them might go into more detail than others, but I believe, and what I've been told by developers is this is sort of effectively what it's all about, is learning to search for things the right way and find information that way. Link your JavaScript file to HTML. So I want to create a script element to do so. So then I can put in that, and then because that's the name of the script, I think that should work. Okay, so I needed to say where it was, as it were. And so then I think it's and this just tells it where the JavaScript file is. Yeah. And it's just there, so it's effectively within the same directory, I'm presuming. I think that's what that means. Okay. So in the role-playing game, we use document query to effectively grab elements within the HTML file. Here we're using another thing. We're still using that document object, but we've got another method, getElementById, which allows us to define the ID of the element that we want and then bring it in. So begin by getting the form element using the ID and storing it in a variable called calorie counter. So we're going to say const calorie counter is equal to document dot get element by ID. And similar fashion to our data that we're going to say, we're going to check right now what's the form ID calorie counter. I'll copy that. Stick in my there you go. There you go. Get your hashtag budget element and assign it to budget number input. So hashtags refer to IDs and dots refer to classes. So get your budget element and assign it to budget number input. So let's then say so const budget number inputs. I will go and confirm this. Const ID is budget for input, which is cool. And then we'll do the next one. Entry drop down. Sorry, my camel case failed me. Cool, so we are grabbing the various elements, and I'm trying to create like a template because I know I'm going to be repeating a lot of this text. Document.getElementById by ID for the const, and they've asked me to create how many? 1, 2, 3. And the way I see it, again, I'm sort of getting a better understanding of the approach to some of these things, which is you want to be able to have handlers, have things that handle your various elements in the HTML file. So these are just ways of building connections, building links to say we're then going to do something with this thing, and this becomes a handle. This becomes a handle with which to do said thing, which is quite cool. Okay. Declare an is error variable and set to default, but use let so you can reassign it. Okay, so even though you set an input element to be a number, JavaScript receives a string. Why? Because function to clean the string value and show you a number. Okay, this is cool. Function don't know if they want me to sort of write the thing. There's probably going to be a method that takes a string and represents it as a number. I don't know if they ask me to do that just yet, and if I do and they're not, then I'll fail this step. So I'm going to check this now, and yeah, didn't want me to do it, which is cool. But I can start jumping ahead and theorizing that there will probably be a method that takes a string and represents it as a number, or that forces a string to be a number. You need to split your string into individual characters. You can use the split method to do this. The split method splits a string into an array of substrings and returns in the array. You can pass in an operational separator, which tells the method where each split should happen. For example, passing an empty string into the split method will split the string into an array of individual characters. Split the string passed into, clean it into an array of individual, and assign a variable named string array. Now in the example they use const, so that's what I'm going to use to say const string array is equal to the string that we bring in, split. Okay, declare a clean string array variable and assign it an empty array. You'll use this to store your valid number characters. Cool. And I'm going to call it there for today. Head over to sleep. Thank you guys for watching whenever you do. And I hope we're all working hard to achieve our goals this year. Let's turn up. Just turn up. Have a good rest of your day, and thank you, Erin, for jumping in. It's nice to see people come, even if it's for a second or two. Um, and I hope that we would, hopefully have more people come in, and that it's inspiring or informative to some. I am learning that it's important to not just take the answers, and I'm going to try and do something that, maybe put a clip ahead of all my videos to say the value in the course is in the struggle, and to not look at the solution, up until such a point as they've found it themselves, because it can be found. And then my videos sort of, I guess, just give an insight into the thinking of someone that's figuring this out. And you might relate to that, it might resonate, it might highlight areas in which you're actually a lot more well versed, and it might highlight things that maybe you haven't thought about. But I think that's the point of it, not necessarily to cheat you out of the benefits of struggling a little bit to figure out the answer for yourself. So, cool, that's me for tonight.